my lovely YouTubers, welcome back to my YouTube channel with me, your girl, Morgan Tracy J, coming today with another morning coffee video, girl, for this fearless season, okay? And today's video is all about how to heal and how to get better, girl, okay? I'm gonna teach you how to do the hard work and rebuild the areas in your life that need to be rebuilt. So if you're ready for this, all I want you to do is subscribe to the YouTube family. Also, be sure you check me out over on Instagram at Morgan Tracy J. And last but not least, girl, if any part of this ministers to you, put it in the comment section below so you can inspire one of your sisters, okay? Let's get into this video. So actually, I was scrolling on Instagram the other day and I came across a quote. And this quote highlighted something that I already had been studying, but I'm like, this quote was just really good. Okay, let me read it to you. It says, "A woman who heals herself, heals her mother, heals her daughter, and heals every woman around her." Daughter of God, it is time for us to heal. Girl, I know you may be like, Morgan, I've been trying to heal. I've been working on this. I actually want to heal, and I just don't know how to move forward. Girl, I have been you. I am you. I understand. There's been seasons after seasons that I've been like, Lord, why have I not healed? But I want to help you today learn how to heal and walk you through healing, okay? And actually, the way that I came to this revelation was through the book of Nehemiah. Okay, so we see in scripture, Nehemiah is actually a man who is really burdened by something he realizes. He comes to the awareness that actually the wall of Jerusalem is all broken down. It's not protected anymore. And actually this is Nehemiah's heritage. So what I'm saying is Nehemiah's father is buried here. This is his heritage. This is his past. This is Nehemiah's heritage. And so what happens is he has this big burden to go and rebuild that wall, okay? And something that Nehemiah said was, "Send me back to where my father's tomb is," as he was talking to the king. Nehemiah wanted to go back because he realized this area was not protected. And so real quick, I want to ask you this question. What walls are broken down in your life? Because see, Nehemiah acknowledged that these walls meant that they were not protected. And you may be like, well, Morgan, I don't really know what you mean. I don't see any walls. But for example, I know years and years ago, this is just really honest, you guys, about 6 or 7 years ago, I finally quit drinking alcohol. And honestly, since about the age of 15, I was drinking alcohol. I was partying, I was drinking with my friends here and there. But about 6 or 7 years ago, I finally quit because I felt the Lord leading me to stop. Although it did not make sense to me why that I could have a glass of wine and not be considered sin. Like, it's not bad. But the Lord had to show me that the alcohol had nothing really to do with me that much. It had to do with the walls of my heritage. Because he had to show me that on both sides, there was a lot of alcohol abuse. There was a lot of addiction to alcohol on both sides of my bloodline. And so he had to let me realize that, daughter of God, it's not that this is for you. This actually is for generations to come. It's got to end with somebody. So, daughter of God, today I want to tell you, Nehemiah realized that there was a generational connection to him. He went back to build this wall because of his heritage. But also, there are sometimes God is calling us to rebuild our walls or let things go or heal because there are some things generationally that has tied us to it. I know that's kind of out there. If you've never heard this before, because I mean, like, Morgan, what are you talking about? But I have to ask you this question. What walls need to be rebuilt in your life? See, Nehemiah realized Jerusalem's walls needed to be rebuilt. But what walls need to be rebuilt in your life? Because I'm asking you this because there were seasons that my confidence had to be rebuilt. The woman that God called me to be could not come out because I was still listening to the words of a certain ex or certain people. And so those words overtook the woman that God was calling to come out. So I got to ask you, sis, what needs to be rebuilt in your life? And also, we got to look a little deeper. What must you start speaking to and rebuking in your family's life? Because see, the reality here is I have been the girl to say, God, why am I back here? Why did after college, I remember I was like, why am I stuck? God, why did you bring me back? Why am I here? Why am I moving back? Why? Like, God, why do I got to go back there? Why? And I'm sure Nehemiah, he was like, wow, I got to go back. This is my heritage. This is what I got to do. And I got to ask you today, maybe the reason why you are still there, maybe the reason why God called you back, maybe the reason why God is calling you to rise up, maybe the reason why God is setting you apart is because you are the one in your family that is meant to rebuild the walls that have been broken down for years and years and years and generations and generations. There's probably some walls in your family that you probably can truly see, sis, that you know that need to be rebuilt. So for example, I've seen quickly over time that in my family's line on both sides, alcohol abuse is really a thing, okay? So that is something I gotta rebuild. It can't go further with me. I've gotta stop it. Although I would love to have that glass of wine, I cannot, okay? Because of what I've got to rebuild for generations to come. So daughter of God, I want you to first realize what needs to be rebuilt in your life. What area around you in your family do you realize that these are cycles, okay? I'm gonna just give you an example. Many relationship cycles I have been in, I can realize that is a wall that has been broken down that needs to be rebuilt and protected. And I realized it was broken down from early on as a child, and so God has to rebuild and protect that, okay? See, I want to tell you also, for example, let's be real. You may, as soon as you start to move forward, you may start to get dreams of a certain person and you start to go back there. I've been this girl. I've had so many dreams of certain exes as soon as I would be ready to move forward with my life. But see, I want to tell you, sometimes there's cycles that come back in our life. There are things that come back around, and we have to be aware to say that this wall needs to be rebuilt. There is no protection here from this thing, okay? Also, too, let me give you another example. There were seasons that I had no desire for God. Actually, too, I could look around in certain parts of my life and people that had no desire for God, that had no desire to go after God, no desire to pursue God, any of that. That right there could be a cycle. That could be an awareness of a wall that has not been built up, and maybe you are the one to build that wall. You might be like, well, Morgan, first off, I don't know how to really rebuild this thing. Like I said, it first comes with the awareness that there is a thing. I'm trying to tell you, there were seasons that I did not even see anything wrong, or even for my generations before me, with the alcohol situation. I couldn't see it. There were seasons I didn't see nothing wrong with my relationship cycles. I could not see it. I could see nothing wrong with my lack of no desire for God. I could not see that, okay? So the first thing is you got to become aware of the walls that are broken down in you and in your family. Because most likely that's going to connect to you. Because most likely you grow up around that, you were in that, that's going to connect to you. Next thing is how you rebuild that is, girl, you got to speak to that thing. You got to denounce that thing. You got to be able to say, oh, hey, I see the cycles of ungodly relationships in my past, in my family, in this area, in my personal life. I'm going to speak to that today. You know what? I've denounced that thing. I've removed that cycle. That cycle has to leave. I will not operate in that spirit of this, that spirit of that, that's tried to operate in my family, in my bloodline. It ends with me. You have to speak to those things, but you got to be able to see them, because sometimes when you can't see them, you can't speak to them, okay? So if you can see them, you can speak to them, and you can say, hey, this thing has to end with me. You know what? The substance abuse, the alcohol abuse, whatever that is, the addiction that was there, it has to end with me. So you know what? I cut it off right now in my bloodline, in this clan, it can no longer go forward. I plead the blood of Jesus over that. This will no longer go forward with me in my family. Oh, divorce has been all around me. It can no longer go forward with me. Oh, rape and molestation has been all, it can no longer go forward. Oh, this has been all, it can no longer go forward. I cut it off here. It ends with me. Daughter of God, you got to know it, and you got to speak to that, and you got to plead the blood over that so that you can move forward in your life. So the things that you've been feeling like you've been stuck in can actually really be released. You can actually be released. And you may say, Morgan, well, how do I heal? Like we talked all about healing. You spoke to that thing. So now how do you heal? And I will say, you guys, this is something that I've learned from experience. The only way that I have healed, and I still got a long ways to go, so please do not think your girls are healed, but the only way I've grown through healing was I had to help heal someone else. So when a girl came to me very depressed, I had to help her through that, and that helped me through my depression. When someone talked to me about pornography, and I had to share, and I actually was still kind of battling with it at a time, but I shared about coming out of pornography, that helped me heal through that. I want to tell you, what you give will be given unto you. So what you give out, if you give out healing, if you give out encouragement, if you give out words of empowerment, if you give out love, if you give out inspiration, if you give out pureness, you're going to get that back. If you give out healing, if you give out compassion, daughter of God, you are going to get that back. So you may say, I want to heal. How do I heal? How do I heal from lust? How do I heal from this trauma? How do I heal from past situations? How do I heal from my father not being there? How do I heal from molestation? Daughter of God, how you heal is you go help somebody with that same issue. You go help somebody with the same issue. You go help them. You go speak to the girl like, you know what? There were seasons I couldn't get out of bed, and this is what helped me get out of bed. You know, there were times I couldn't love myself because I could see the trauma, I could see the pain, but actually, this is what helped me. This was the scripture that I came across that empowered me to do this. That is how you heal. You begin to help others in that area. And what I've learned is some of us who have been cut the most actually can actually help heal the best, right? Sometimes the broken can only minister to the broken, right? Who've been there with you, who've understood that journey, who's understood the pain, right? And so I want to encourage you today that, sis, if you're trying to heal and you're like, Morgan, I've been trying to heal for years and years, maybe it's time to start trying to help somebody else on their journey. Maybe you have struggled with self-identity a lot of times, and maybe it's time to go help that little cousin or that niece, help them with their identity. Help them understand the tools that you wish you would have had back then, right? That is how we heal. That is how we overcome. And remember this, what you heal from today is not just for you. It's actually for generations to come. It's for your daughters. It's for your great-grandchildren. It's for generations to come. What you overcome and what you speak to and what you talk to and you acknowledge that, when I get mad, I don't feel like I'm like myself. I'm going to speak to that spirit of anger. I'm going to speak to that spirit of depression. When you start to speak to these things and denounce these things and cut these things off, what happens, daughter of God, is you are preparing a better path for the next generation. Let's be realistic, okay? There are people who grew up in a lot of poverty, went off, became a doctor. Now they're not in poverty. They were able to not bring that spirit of poverty to their children. We already see it there. You get a little upper hand. You get a little better. You get a little better, right? We see that. So just imagine what you do in the spirit when you say, okay, alcohol abuse will not be mine, and it will not be my children's, and it will not be their children's. It stops with me. How much better will their life be now? I want to encourage you, daughter of God, that everything you're doing here is not just for you. It's actually for generations to come. So in Nehemiah, in chapter 3, verse 15, Shalom, I hope I'm saying that right, Shalom, he was actually meant to build the pool. So he built the pool. But then we can go all the way over into John, and this is hundreds and hundreds of years later. This very pool is where Jesus is, where he gives the blind man sight, okay? So sometimes we think it's just for now when really it's generationally. This thing is beyond us. So I want you to remember, as you are going through healing and as you are doing the hard work within yourself, and as you are speaking to things and you're acknowledging things and seeing things that are operating in your bloodline and cutting those off, when you can do that, daughter of God, and you do the hard work, what you're doing is you're blessing generations to come. You are. And the thing I want to tell you about this, because it's tough, and I have honestly done this, don't run from the work, okay? And I say this because there were years that I was on this personal development journey. I started prayer journaling. I started to really start dealing with a lot of stuff in Morgan. And then, you guys, the truth is your girl got comfortable. Your girl chilled out for a minute, okay? Like, I almost felt like I had arrived or I was good. And so I was not really pursuing the things of God the same way. I wasn't really seeking development. I wasn't really seeking healing anymore. I wasn't really seeking a better understanding, right? I wasn't seeking revelation really. And what happened, what I realized is I got comfortable. It was in Nehemiah, and it says, he said, I am doing a great work. I can't come down. See, Nehemiah was building this wall back, and all this opposition was coming against him. They were trying to kill him. They were trying to get him to come down. And he would not come down from his great work. And I want to tell you, daughter of God, every time you pursue healing, every time you pursue God, every time you push through the things that are pushing you back, every time you overcome the failure, every time you overcome being afraid and scared, every time you do not stop and you keep moving forward, girl, you are doing a good work and a great work, and you will not come down. I want to encourage you today. That is how you move forward, is you get that mindset, is I am doing a great work and I will not come down. And the truth is, girl, God is doing a great work inside of you. He is doing a great work inside of you. Even when you feel afraid, like a failure back, when you backslid, when you've messed up, when you've messed with old boy, when you fell off, when you quit reading your word, when you fell off from God, when you lost God, when you lost yourself, when you were dipping and dabbling in things you had no business doing, girl, I am you. Trust me, I am you. And so I want to tell you, even in that, God is still producing a great work through you. Daughter of God, lift your head up and get back into a place of awareness and healing, because God has greater for you. And I'm speaking, girl, I'm not speaking from a perfect place. I'm not speaking from a girl who ain't sinned in the last week or 2 weeks. Girl, I sin every day. I sin mentally, I sin physically. I am not perfect. And I will tell you that clear as day. I am not a perfect human being. But one thing I have learned is that healing is something that is going to be pivotal to your life for growth and for freedom. It says where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Liberty is freedom, daughter of God. And in God, you can have the freedom of his love. You can have the freedom of his peace. You can have the freedom of his joy. You can have the freedom against condemnation. You can have the freedom of his salvation. Girl, you can have freedom, okay? And so I want you to experience that freedom. But many times, there are walls around us that are broken down. And we say, why am I still getting attacked here? Why am I always feeling persecuted here? Why am I always being challenged in the same area of lust? Why am I always feeling this same feeling of not good enough and defeat and failure inside of me? Why am I always experiencing this unworthiness when really, daughter of God, it's just a wall that has been broken down for years and years, for generations and generations. And God says, I want you to speak to that thing and I want you to start rebuilding it, because it's not just for you, it's for the generations to come. So I know I went around the mountain with this word, and I know that it's not the normal morning coffee talks, but as I began to prepare this, I realized this word was not for y'all. This was for me. Like, this came alone. Look, y'all, this is my prayer journal. Like, it came in my alone time. Okay, this came in my alone time, and it was really for me. There were some walls that God had to highlight in my life that I had to start speaking to, and it was at 12:30 at night one night. And God's like, it's time to start speaking to him. And he started speaking to the cycles in my life that I've seen. And he says, it has to end with you. And so, daughter of God, I have to ask you this today. Is it going to end with you? Are you going to be able to acknowledge the areas in your life that need to be rebuilt? And are you going to be okay with being the one to rebuild it? Okay? So, sis, don't come down from your great work. God is with you. Well, ladies, I hope you got blessed by this message. If this encouraged you, daughter of God, I want you to comment down below and share this with one of your girlfriends. I will see you in my next video. Bye. Ooh, y'all, that was hard. Lord have mercy, Jesus.